Hi, good morning. Good morning. Oh, I miss y'all. I am so excited to be here this morning to be having this conversation. This is our second virtual UYS summit, and I have the esteemed pleasure to be here with my cover girls. And the reason I'm calling them my cover girls is because I had the pleasure to work with them over the past year since they were UYS's 2021 cover girls, and we met every other week and we talked about all kinds of things happening in Black girlhood, right? We talked about anxiety, we talked about depression, we talked about relationships, friendships, I mean, everything. And so now we are going to bring that conversation to this larger platform. And they are going to share some of their own personal experiences dealing with depression, feelings of anxiety, and how sisterhood actually helped them get through some very rough and troubling times. So, ladies, are you excited? I'm excited. Okay, so first things first, I want you all to introduce yourself. So, Layla, go for it. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is Layla Ryans. I'm 16 years old. I live in Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, and I love dancing, I love art, and I love music. Those three are my safe spaces.
Yes, I love that safe space. You know, we're all about that. Nashetah, hi.
Hi, I'm Nashetah Thomasell. I'm 17. I'm from Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania. I love skateboarding, music, dancing, and art. Those are like my top four. I love everything about it, and those are like what bring me joy.
Yes, I love that. Nashetah has showed us some cool tricks and taught us a little bit about the skateboard world and all of her art, and we loved it. And one of the things I loved about meeting my cover girls was just how different they all were, but how supportive everyone was of each other. And so, as you're going through this summit, I want you to remember that you may meet girls in your group that aren't like you, but that's okay. Sisterhood is still there and it's still available for you. And listen, you got this. You're going to meet some sisters this weekend, and I'm excited. Okay, so Sierra, you are up next. How are you?
I'm good. My name is Sierra Sedeno. I'm 17 years old. I'm really kind of into the performing arts, so singing, acting, like poetry recitation, all that kind of stuff is sort of where I find my joy. Occasionally, I will sketch a thing or two. Not great, but I like to pretend like I can. So that's me. Those are sort of the things that I enjoy doing.
Thank you so much, Sierra. And finally, we have our Kendal. Hi, Kendal. Good morning.
Hey everyone, I'm so happy to be here. Oh my gosh. I'm Kendal. I'm from Maryland, and some of my safe space things I like to do is do hair. That's like my top thing. I own a hair business, and that's really how I relieve stress and like kind of reground myself during times where I feel kind of cloudy up here. It just kind of helps me focus. And I love listening to music. And another way I relieve stress is playing volleyball or working out. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for your introductions. I know that we're starting this summit off with, I don't want to say heavy conversations, but necessary conversations around, depression, anxiety. We're going to talk about some self-harm. We're going to talk about some suicidal ideation. And we're also going to talk about something that I don't think is talked about enough, which are eating disorders. And for all of, I guess I should introduce myself. For all of you out there, I am the UYS Resident Coach and Therapist. And I work with teenagers, and I've been working with teenagers for years. And so outside of this work that I do, I am also a therapist. And so in my private practice, I see Black girls, and there are a lot of things that I see. And one of those things is really an increase in eating disorders. And so that's something else I wanted us to talk about today: body image, social media, and how, there's always diet culture and exercise culture and have a Coke bottle shape culture. And so are you all open to having that conversation with me today? Yes. Okay. So first things first, I want to ask, how do you all define depression, or how have you seen depression show up maybe in your own life or in some of your friends' lives? And anyone can start.
I'll start. Personally, I haven't experienced depression, but someone very close to me has, and it heavily impacted not just her mood, but the things that she did in her life, like her sports life, her school life was heavily impacted, as well as her mood. And it definitely took a toll on how she took care of herself, and how she viewed herself. And it was hard to see because a lot of times when you have someone who's dealing with depression, words may not be enough. It might be a whole entire healing process they have to go through on their own to help them. So it's very heartbreaking to see. And I know it's different in other people as well. So if anybody else has experienced this.
I guess I don't. I sort of know my own personal experiences with depression. I have depression. I guess for me, understanding depression is in terms of how it sort of tanks my mood. So, like, I know you guys have seen me, I've been like really, really bubbly, really, really happy, but for me, depression just kind of makes it harder to give out those emotions. It's more like the best way to describe it for me is like a really, really cloudy day. Like on cloudy days, you're like, oh, look, it's a nice day out. It's not so much of a nice day outside, but here's all the things you can do. And it's pushing yourself to be able to do those things, understanding that it's just a cloud. Clouds move away. You know what I mean? That's how I sort of can relate depression to other people.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that everybody goes through depression differently. Like you could be the most productive person and you could still go through depression. And so with that, I would say that can't really tell sometimes whether or not somebody or or even if you have depression. So it's important to reach out to somebody. And I think that you just need to make sure that you check in with yourself and to take a step back whenever you feel like you're going through the motion of just kind of feeling down. And I would say that I know it can happen like seasonally too. Like in the winter, for me, I get upset and I can really change how I act depending on like how I would be in the spring or in the summer.
Definitely. I mean, I've recently, not recently, but like I've heard of like seasonal depression and how it ranges and how it differs like between seasons. And I agree with like everything y'all just said. And like, especially Kendall, because someone close to me also has depression, but I don't really like know everything that she goes through. But I do know that like, just like learning about it in school sometimes, like, it's like associated with like sometimes like not wanting to do things that you normally would want to do or like that you're interested in, like passionately, and sort of like just like losing that. But also, like Layla said, it affects people in different ways. So you don't always know what they're going through or if you are going through that. So it definitely is a good thing to talk to somebody you trust if you feel like you're feeling those emotions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Cover Girls, for sharing your experiences. And on the slide here, I just have 4 little thought bubbles, just to kind of capture just some different things that might happen or you might think if you're feeling depressed. So, one thing I have noticed in my own practice with Black girls specifically is that idea of I'm not hungry. Right? They kind of don't eat and they say that they're not hungry. And it's usually because their mood is low and they might be feeling very sad or have been sad for a while. And so that's one indication that lets me know something else may be happening. Another is I'm sleepy, right? Always being tired, never really feeling like you have the energy to do the things, as Nashetah said, that you once liked to do, and just always feeling pretty tired. Another is my head hurts. Because one thing in the Black community around depression and anxiety is that we actually have physical symptoms that are not traditionally represented in the DSM, which is our diagnostic manual. And so I've noticed, and researchers have noticed, that we also tend to say, oh, my stomach hurts or my head hurts. And that can also be an indication that something else is happening. And then my final one, because y'all are middle schoolers and high schoolers and you're growing and budding and friendships are all around, is I don't like her. If I told y'all how many times I've heard that. And then when I had an opportunity to sit and help my girls and some boys in my school setting, talk through things, it was just that they weren't feeling the best about themselves. And because of that, they were being triggered by some of these other peer relationships. So these are some things. And girls, if you're out there and you're watching, if you want to share in your GXC room or you want to share on the thread, feel free to do so if you can relate to any of these things. Because one thing about UYS, we want to make sure that you're not alone. And I love that about the cover girls. They had that opportunity to know, hey, you're actually not alone. All of them just shared an experience. So we're here to support. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about anxiety. And I know who has COVID anxiety? Anybody has pandemic COVID anxiety? Oh my gosh, I feel like I could just put up all the hands in the world. And let's talk about it. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my little four and then cover girls jump right in. So one of the main things that I see when I'm working with Black girls is that they're irritable. And it's like, leave me alone. Everything is leave me alone. And I'm sure parents out there, if they were listening, would probably say, yes, my child tells me that all the time. But leaving me alone. Your legs are shaking, right? Another physical symptom. Your chest hurting. Or having these things called intrusive thoughts, but nonstop thoughts. Right? Nonstop thoughts of worry, nonstop thoughts of something's going to go wrong, nonstop thoughts of thinking of the worst case scenario. So this is how anxiety shows up. And so cover girls, do you have any experiences around anxiety or things that you're experiencing now that you're trying to work through?
Hello? Oh. Yes, so I could go first. So there's like different types of anxiety that I have like dealt with over the past a couple years. My first experiences with anxiety were very scary because they were like random panic attacks, and like I had never like had any type of anxiety, just came out the blue. And it was scary. It was a scary time, and I didn't know it was anxiety till after like I talked to someone about it. It didn't end there, but I just had a long string of, I guess, nonstop thoughts, like you were saying. And I'm still dealing with it today, but Miss Jaynay, you have really helped me like deal with anxiety and why is there, understanding why is there will help you cope or, get rid of it even. Another type of anxiety that I've experienced was just like mask anxiety, because we were talking about COVID and stuff. So what mask anxiety is to me is basically like when we're wearing our masks, like we do in public or in school and work environments, you might pull down your mask, or you might be scared to pull down your mask because you might feel like someone is like, oh my God, that's what you look like. Oh my God. Like, I just sometimes feel that way in school because like there's people that don't know me, and I pull down my mask and they're just like looking at me. I'm just like, oh, you didn't know I looked like that. I didn't know you didn't know I looked like that. So it's just like, I don't know. You could be scared, and I know I'm probably not the only person that goes through it. And I don't know if you guys can relate as well, but that's definitely one thing that I'm experiencing.
Thank you for sharing. That mask thing is interesting. At my job, I had my mask down. I was in my office by myself, and someone walked in, and the CEO was like, I don't think I've ever like seen your full face. And I was confused, like, huh? And then I realized it was because I didn't have a mask on at the time because I was taking a mask break to drink something. And he's never seen my face, and I've been working with him for months now. So it's really interesting. Any other cover girls have some pandemic anxiety, mask anxiety that you want to share?
Yeah. So like when like quarantine started, I was just like so like just like scared. Like I completely like confined myself to like my room, like my house, because I felt like if I went outside, I would get COVID, or like for just like a few seconds, or just like I never wanted to go outside. Like I never went outside. And like after going outside, like going to the store, I would stay in my house for weeks and then go back out. So like I was always really scared that I would get COVID. But now that I'm vaccinated, I feel kind of better about it, but I still like now that I'm back to school, and that's like a whole other thing, just like school anxiety and feeling like scared about all these people, and like not everybody at my school is vaccinated. So and then when we have lunch, like we take our masks off and we eat, like I get scared that like anytime I take my mask off, it's an opportunity for me to get COVID. And it just like makes me really worried. So like I try not to have my mask off for as much as possible. But I also
No, go ahead.
but I also get nonstop thoughts. I'm like a big overthinker, and I'm also like a big perfectionist. So that's why like I love art, but it makes it so hard because I want every detail to be perfect, and then when it's not, it just like completely like I have to like I constantly think about it. And like with school assignments, when something's like not completely perfect or I don't get like a perfect score like that, I also like overthink about that too. And that recently happened with me this week, and I'm still thinking about it. So yeah, I struggle with that too.
Thank you so much for your transparency. And I think one thing I want to ask is if you have any suggestions. So what are some things that you all have done to help you deal with anxiety? I know that there are some girls watching who probably have some variation of either having like a panic attack, and that just means where you are panicking and it's very hard to catch your breath, and you're having maybe a shortness of breath, having mask anxiety, school anxiety, academic anxiety is a thing, right? Some of us were in school on the roll, on the ball, and then we had a year off, and now you have to go back to school and interact with a bunch of people. So just what are some things you all do? So either Layla or Sierra can share. And I see, Sierra, you have your hand up, so I'm gonna go with you.
Oh yeah. I know sort of like that whole school aspect for me is it's a little tricky to sort of navigate because on one hand, I did go back to school last year, so I'm kind of integrated into it, but at the same time, there are less precautions. So for me, it's sort of m- finding a group of people that I can trust to stay home when they're not feeling well, to, be open and honest. Hey, this may happen. And just sort of finding a group of people that you can trust or even slowly integrating yourself back. So, like finding a teacher or a staff member that you can hang out with and be like, hey, it's a little bit much. And sort of that school aspect of keep sort of finding those spaces where you can be okay in case something happens or in case something is happening.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, Layla.
Oh, I agree with Sierra. I think you need to find that group of people that you can talk to or to just like who you feel safe around, because it's good to have someone around you when you don't feel like your best self and you're anxious. So I think it's good to have that. Also, I think I know that like COVID, we've all been in quarantine and now we're trying to get back into that like normal life when it's like really not gonna be the same. But I would say to try not to rush back into that normal pace that you were in and before COVID, because we've all were focusing on our mental health and self-care because it was a lot to process during that time. And so now you need to make sure you continue to focus on your mental health and self-care, because I think it's important to make sure you're still organized and that you're like safe with your mental health. And so I think that, yeah, you just need to have a plan and be at a normal pace. Well, no, you have to slow down your pace and make sure that you're okay.
Layla, you sound like a mini me over there. And I just appreciate that so much because, yes, the cover girls will tell you one of my favorite things to tell them was slow down. Your schedule does not have to be full. Take a breather, rest. It is okay. And I kind of always drill that in because I do think part of anxiety is that we want to keep going, right? We feel a certain way and we're like, okay, well, I could just keep going and keep going. But that keep going usually runs us into the ground. So thank you so much, Layla and Sierra, for sharing your advice around having your safe people that you can trust, because trust is important when you're dealing with anxiety and when those feelings are escalating. And it's also really important, to Layla's point, to slow down and be mindful of your pace. So, girls, I hope you feel that this is helpful out there, because we all have it. As you can see in the chat, we all are dealing with it to some extent. So now I'm going to share a stat with you that I think was very staggering even for me. So 64%, the suicide rate has risen 64% among Black girls versus white girls in the past few years. And if we care to know, the rate for white girls, it's risen about 16%, if we want to actually just think about that comparison. So what are some thoughts about that, about how high that has increased? Any thoughts you have, cover girls?
Well, that for me is staggering. And I was trying to do the mental math. It's not working. It's like 40 something percent though. It's like 40 or 50 something percent that's risen in comparison. It's staggering to me that that's happened, but it also sort of pushes me to like make sure that other Black girls have that safe space, have those people they can go to, so that when they're having thoughts like that, when they're, feeling like that, that they don't have to turn to it, I guess, is sort of what it just sort of encourages me to want to encourage them to go find their safe spaces. That's sort of, yeah, it's just really crazy to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I also want to say that the age that it was the highest were 17-year-olds. And I'm looking at, the screen, and all, three of our cover girls are 17. So that hits hard when you think about this large statistic, and then when you're around people, right? And I have 3 beautiful 17-year-olds here, and that's the age group that it's happening the most. So it really does kind of put things into perspective. And it's also disheartening. So I just wanted to make sure we were having this very open, honest, and real conversation. And Sierra, thank you for sharing. And who was going next? I'm sorry. Was it Kendal?
Yeah, I was just going to say it really does hurt to hear that it was mostly 17-year-olds, but also that a good way to, make sure we can do our part in helping this slow down is reaching out to people you don't reach out to often, making sure that your friends are okay. Sometimes we can have friends and we will never see that part of them that could be suicidal or could have depression. So really spend time and do the little things. They really do matter. Coming from a person who has not always felt the best, having that person that texts you, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, I'm thinking about you. That makes a difference, because that one person for that one day could have been thinking, okay, this is going to be my last day. But that text could have changed their whole outcome of what they think about themselves. Okay, there's someone that's thinking about there's someone that's loving me out there. And that could have saved someone's life. So don't overlook those things.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Kendal. Other cover girls want to add into this? Layla and Nashetah?
Yeah, I agree with Sierra and Kendal. I think that my mom, she always tells me that if somebody pops into my head, it's for a reason. And so I should just reach out to them and let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, I love you. Hope everything is okay. And that can really make someone's day, because I know when someone does that with me, I feel a lot better. I know as cover girls, we do that in our group chats, and it gets me so happy because I really miss them, and it's so good to hear everybody. And so it's just important to reach out to somebody and to let them know that you're not alone and that you have someone that loves you.
I agree. I think it's really important to reach out to people that you're thinking of, or people, your friends, people close to you. It's always important to just reach out and tell them that you're thinking about them, or that you love them, or that you hope they're doing okay. Because it really goes a long way. And like Layla said, in our group chat, like we text each other, and like anytime we say like, hey, hope you love you guys, it makes my day. It makes me really happy. So it's always a good idea to reach out to people, let them know that you are thinking of them, because it just sends them a reminder that they're not alone. That's like the most important part.
Yes, and thank you all so much for your transparency. And just for everyone out there listening, sometimes you may text that friend and they may not be okay. And you may feel like you don't know what to do next. And I just encourage you, if you know their sibling or if you know their parent, to reach out. And I know that's probably like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell on them. But I don't want you to consider it telling on them. I want you to consider it to be getting them the help that they need, that they may not be able to ask for in that moment. Because when we're vulnerable, when we're feeling that way, we're not able to always know what we need to do. And that's why it's important to have a safe space or a safe circle of people, of trusted people that can be there for you when you may not be able to think your clearest in that moment. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you reach out to a friend and they're saying that they're not safe, you can tell your trusted person, whether that's your mom, your dad, your aunt, like, hey, I have a friend going through this. Can you help me figure out how we can support her and get her the support that she needs? And they might be a little mad at you at first. I've been here. I've been here. They might be a little mad at first, but they do always feel better and feel grateful for your standing in for them, right? You standing in and being there for them and making sure that they have the support that they need. So I just want to encourage you to also do that. Okay, so I want us to talk more now about suicide and self-harm. Again, we were just kind of talking about that staggering rate, and I just want to make sure that we are having a conversation about what this looks like. So before I jump into my thought bubbles, I just want to say that suicide and self-harm are two different things. Someone can be suicidal and not actively self-harm, and someone can self-harm and not actively be suicidal. Because often I think people mix both of them together. And in some cases they're together, but in some cases they're not. I know we've all seen the show 13 Reasons Why, and that was a big thing when it came out around self-harm and cutting. And I just wanted to, it was happening before the show, it was happening during the show, and it's going to happen now after the show is over. But just because you may self-harm doesn't mean you're suicidal, and vice versa. There are also two types of suicide that I often see, and there's an active suicidal ideation, and then there's a passive suicidal ideation. So active means you want to do it. You're right now, you want to engage, you have a plan, all of that. And passive is just, you may be depressed, or you just may have thoughts of not being here anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore. And it's kind of just passively in your mind. And I think that distinction is important in case you need to reach out for additional support, so you can tell someone where you actually are, because honesty is also very important when you're getting extra assistance and guidance. So cuts or harms body to feel, right? That would be considered self-harm. So that could be cutting, that could be burning with like a lighter or something. I've had students use erasers. I've had students use lighters to heat it up and put it on their arm. Those things are called smileys, I learned. I don't want to live anymore. You might hear your friends say that. You might say that. Feeling misunderstood often could lead someone to feeling suicidal and feeling like they don't want to be here. And then engaging in risky behavior, knowing it can cause danger, is one of my definitions of self-harm. And I know that some people might not agree, but if you have the awareness to know that something you're doing is risky and could cause you danger, then you are intentionally putting yourself in harm's way. Does that make sense, cover girls? At least because I know I can't see the rest of the girls. So any thoughts on suicide and self-harm? If you have any questions, we're going to have a Q&A. So that's why I'm going to kind of get through this so that you can ask those questions and then we can answer them for you. But I just wanted to give a snapshot of what some thoughts or some behaviors might be around suicide or self-harm. Cover girls, did you want to add anything or have any experiences that you wanted to share with this?
I guess I'll kind of do a slight and brief glaze overview. Okay. I know I have friends, and I myself have struggled with things like suicidal ideation, and my friends and stuff have dealt with self-harm. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't realize, which is why a lot of people say to reach out, is there's a really, really isolatory factor to it. Like there's just this idea that like nobody likes you, nobody cares for you. There's this idea, at least I know in my circle, that there's just like you're by yourself on this little island. So if you just get rid of your little island, who's there to care? And so you have to remind your friends, those people you haven't thought of in a little while, seen a little while, that, hey, by the way, I'm still here for you. I still care about you. Because it's the little things that stop somebody from doing whatever they're doing. And like, I remember when I was younger, it used to be like, I used to be on a hair trigger. I used to be like, one moment and then it's over. I'm like, I used to like say my goodbyes every day because I didn't know. I was like, today could be the day. Maybe it's tomorrow. And it was the small things of like, this person said, hey, buddy, I love you. And I'm like, I love you too. I can't do it anymore. So it's just this idea of reminding the people that you're there, that you care for them, and having a reason, even if it's something small, is enough to keep them going. Because if they find something small, they're going to find something bigger and something bigger after that. So that for me, I think is what I really like about what everybody has said is remind people that you love them, remind people that they have something, because that something may be their thing to keep going for.
Sierra, I first of all thank you so much for sharing and your transparency, all of y'all, because this isn't easy, right? To get on a stage and kind of talk about the things that have typically been stigmatized. But I just want you all to know you're trailblazers, being able to come up here and also talk about this and no longer make it a stigma, because we are here together, right? We are not in silos. Isolation, to your point, Sierra, makes us feel like we can't get through, that we can't make it, and we're here. And so I wanted to just commend all of you for your transparency. And Sierra, when you said that small thing turns into a big thing, whew, got goosebumps. I'm a little cold, but I actually got goosebumps from that comment too, because that is true. And that's what I want you all to remember just listening to this, that it takes that one step, right? That one morsel of hope, that one little thing, and then you can continue to build on that. And that's what this community is about to me. And I'm just grateful. So thank you all. I want to be mindful of time because I want to make sure we have a good Q&A. So we're going to just move on to the next slide. A few slides back, so we can just talk a little bit about eating disorders. And I'm just gonna, again, go through this, and then we're gonna play a little game, and then we're gonna have Q&A, because I think I see some questions popping up. So one of the things that I see often that trigger me to know that there's something happening with the eating disorder is when girls tell me, oh, I'll only eat once a day. I'm not really hungry. I'm only gonna eat once. That always piques my interest when the girls tell me like, oh, I'm gonna try all the detox teas. There's also something there that tells me, okay, let me just make a note. I need to get thick, so I'll eat all this food, right? Because then we also have that part of it, whereas people want their bodies to be thicker, and so they eat a lot. And then some girls may say, oh, I'll eat a lot and then I'll just vomit. And so these are things that pop up into my head, or when girls say this, that makes me think of that. I asked, do they eat in secret? Are they satisfied with their eating patterns? Are they satisfied with their bodies? And those questions really help me see that there may be an eating disorder, or what I would call disordered eating, also kind of happening. And so I don't know if any of you have had any experiences with any friends that had eating disorders, or if you've seen it or if you've known it, but it really is an undercover conversation that doesn't happen often. And so I wanted to make sure we tackled on this a bit today. And we're going to talk about the difference between eating disorders and disordered eating, because they're not exactly the same. But traditionally speaking, people didn't think that Black girls had any type of eating disorders, right? It was just, it's fine. Like, this is how we eat. And in in reality, we are struggling to eat in a way that actually makes us feel our best, because we are sort of, in some cases, trying to achieve something. So, fun little game. I want you to tell me if you think any of these ladies' bodies have been altered. Do you think their body is real or altered? So, cover girls, jump in. We have Teyana Taylor first, Lori Harvey, and that's Ari, I don't know her, Fletcher. And that's Moneybagg Yo's girlfriend, Lori Harvey. We all know who that is, Teyana Taylor. So what do you think? I want to hear some thoughts on if you think these bodies are real or altered.
I think Teyana Taylor's body is real. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all answer. I think
one is which?
Say that again.
Teyana Taylor's first.
Teyana Taylor's first, and then the middle is Lori Harvey, and then the last person in the red is Ari Fletcher.
Okay, so I'm honestly just gonna go by picture number, because I really don't know people. This is something that all the cover girls know about me. I have never won a game of any of those cards. Like, we used to play card games, and I promise you, they were like, "Are you even?" And I was like, maybe.
So funny. All right, what are your votes, Sierra? Tell us.
My vote, number one, I think might be real.
Okay.
Number two, I don't know. Number two might not be real. I think maybe number two is altered, and number three, I'm thinking for sure is altered.
Okay. Layla Ryans, what are your guesses or votes here?
I'm gonna say first one real, second one I can't really tell like how her body looks because she's kind of covered, but I'm gonna say real, and then third one altered.
All right, and Nashetah.
I say Teyana Taylor. I say her body's real. Is it Lori Harvey?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think her body's real. Like Layla said, I don't know because her body's covered, but I'm pretty sure. And then Ari Fletcher, I think her body's altered.
Okay. So I feel like I need a drum or something. All right. Are you ready, girls? Okay. All of their bodies are actually altered. Yes. Your faces are like, what? And so part of the reason that so basically when we think about bodies being altered and we think about those kind of things, we sometimes think that it always has to be like this super curvy, right? Like body happening. But as you can see with Teyana Taylor and Lori Harvey, they got what's called a skinny BBL, right? And so they're like, what is that? So basically it's a BBL, but you're not adding a bunch of, additions to your body. You're kind of keeping your body shape. They're taking the fat from like different parts of your body, or like pulling it out, but it's still maintaining your small frame. And so Teyana Taylor, I think, also has had a nose job. Because if anyone remembers Teyana Taylor, I'm a little older, she was on Sweet 16 years ago with MTV, and, she looks different. So all three of those ladies have had their body altered. I think Ari Fletcher is the one that is the most open about getting surgery, while the other two are not open. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I mention that is because when we're on social media and we're online and we see people drinking teas and working out, some of them have already gotten surgery, and the gym won't give you hips, right? And I know I see that online often. It's like the gym's not going to give you that. That is surgical. And I think as young, impressionable girls, you'll be online because it happens to me. Sometimes I'm online and I'm like, oh, I don't look like that, or my COVID body looks different, or wait, what am I doing wrong? I should just be in the gym more. But I'm not going to be able to look like these women because they had surgery. And I'm not saying all of their body, right, is formulated by surgery, but depending on what you're looking for, you might not be able to achieve it in that way. So I just wanted to kind of, put that out there for you all real quick, just to let you know, to be mindful of what you're watching or seeing on social media, because it might not actually be what you think. And some celebrities are just not honest about it. Again, Ari is pretty honest, but Teyana has never really shared about her surgery, and neither has Lori. but because their body frames are smaller, we would assume that they've never had anything done. So just something to think about as we're having this conversation around bodies and eating, because most people associate that, eating to their body. So just to run through this really quick, eating disorder is defined as a serious and often fatal illness that are associated with severe disturbances in people's eating behaviors and related thoughts and emotions. Preoccupation with food, body weight, and shape may also signal an eating disorder. And then we have disordered eating, which is defined as engaging in some of the same behavior as those with eating disorders, but with a lesser frequency or a lower level of severity. Okay, so it's like you might have a preoccupation with food, but it might not be every day. You might do it like every other week or so. It's irregular, right? It's a disordered eating pattern, but it isn't an eating disorder because it's not your constant pattern of eating. So just wanted to throw this information out there. I know we might not have a full conversation about it, but I just wanted to plant the seed around eating, body dysmorphia, and social media, because they're all connected. Any thoughts or questions, Cover Girls, before we keep rolling and open up the floor? I think it's almost time for Q&A. So girls out there, get your questions ready.
I just had one really quick question.
Yes.
What is a BBL?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm blanking on what it actually stands for right now.
It's a Brazilian butt lift.
Go ahead.
Brazilian butt lift.
That's what it is. Brazilian
butt lift.
Sierra's like, oh, they have Brazilian butt lifts. It's a Brazilian butt lift.
She's like the whole time.
She was in her head, Kendal, like, what is that? What? I'm missing it. It's a Brazilian butt lift. And what often happens is, I'm not a surgeon, but from the plastic surgery girls out there that I follow, they will take fat out of one part of your body and put it into another. So they'll take fat out of your stomach and put it into your butt, usually. And that's kind of how we get like that shape, that we kind of see often. But again, Lori Harvey is already skinny, right? So they pulled like some of her fat from her arms and then put it there. But because she didn't have a lot of fat, she didn't have this extreme, look to her, basically. So just something to just kind of know. And yes, they dropped it in the chat, a Brazilian butt lift. And all surgery is dangerous because, I think people try to make BBL seem more dangerous. All surgeries are dangerous. But BBLs are happening, and this is a sidebar, at such a frequent rate, and people really aren't thinking about the care that if you get surgery, you have to keep up with that for the rest of your life. And that's money, and you have medical things that you have to keep up with for the rest of your life. And so that's really something that you want to be sure about, but also making sure that it's not connected to just looking online and social media, because there are a lot of issues that can come up with that. So quick stats. Is this surprising to you? According to the National Eating Disorders Association, Black teenagers are 50% more likely than white teenagers to exhibit bulimic behavior. And bulimic behavior is eating and purging, right? So eating a lot and then vomiting. Black girls have higher BMIs and higher instances of dieting, bulimia, and food preoccupations. Black female youth are more likely to engage in weight control behaviors. Black girls reported higher eating disorder symptoms at an earlier age, like 9 years old. And these symptoms decreased over a longer period of time. So those were just some stats. Think about it to yourself if you feel that they are surprising or not. And we are at our Q&A. So Cover Girls are there. Do you think that there's anything you want to ask, or girls out there? We are ready for questions. So I guess we're just going to sit here and see what comes up. But until they come up, Cover Girls, how are you feeling?
I feel good. This is a great conversation to have, especially for our younger audience. And I think it's good to let them know so they don't feel alone, because this could be new to them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Sierra. And then we have a question. I think you took your mic off, Sierra.
Oh, I was just I was saying, like, I feel educated, but also like I've helped to educate other people. So I feel satisfied. That's a great word.
Yes, I love that. All right, so we have a question. What could you say to a person that might have thoughts of not wanting to be alive anymore? Because I've encountered many people, like my friends and associates, that have mentioned that. Well, I think one of the things that I would do is ask them what's bothering them, what makes them not want to be here, what about life feels uncomfortable for them. Because often we just don't have those authentic conversations enough. I'm a very positive person, but I'm not like toxic positive where I'm gonna act like nothing bad is happening in the world. And I think sometimes that happens a little too often. So if you have a friend that's having those thoughts, I would ask them like, hey, what's troubling you? What's on your mind? Like, what kind of challenges are you having? Like, what would make your life better? And just be really curious about that feeling that they're having before jumping to, this gun of, oh, I can't help, or, oh, they're going to do it. Sometimes people just, again, need to be heard, but sometimes we also have to think about, I don't want to say how to be authentic in our question asking, but how to be real and genuine and authentic in our question asking. Because sometimes life is just tough. I'm not going to lie about that. Go ahead, Kendal, as we wait for more questions to come. Oh, the questions are coming in. Go ahead.
I'm just going to respond to the last question we just had. But to say to someone that is not feeling like they want to be here, I personally believe in my faith, since I am Christian, that God makes us all on purpose with a purpose. And if your life doesn't feel like it's good yet, then he's not done with you yet. And I believe that there are lots of seasons where we feel like, this is going to be it. And, this is all my life is supposed to be about. It's negative. It's bad. Everything feels like it's falling apart. It's dark and it's lonely, but it's not going to be like that forever. And that's very cliche to say because we can't see it, but you're going to be so proud of yourself when you can look back and say you persevered through all of that. And now you can share what you've gone through with people who are in the place that you were at now. So I just say keep going, find people that love you, be around people that love you, and find something that you love and that you're passionate about, because that's something, that little thing could keep you going every day. You can wake up and know that there's something out there that you love and you will love doing it. So yes.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. So our next question is, what advice would you give to someone who deals with unpredictable anxiety attacks? This is a good question. And my response is going to be, I want you to start to think about a pattern. I think we can think they're unpredictable because our awareness may not be as strong in the moment. So we think that they don't have a pattern or that they're not happening, or that they're not being triggered by something. So I would first say you want to think about your pattern and have better awareness to see if you can find a pattern around what's going on and what's happening. And then after that, you want to think about how you can calm down. So one thing I always suggest is, if you can, taking a shower, because changing your body temperature, some cool water can really help to reset your nervous system. And I won't get too fancy and all of that, but you can ask the doctors tomorrow about your nervous system and how that gets impacted with anxiety. But taking a cold shower is one thing that you can do when you're experiencing an anxiety attack. If you have someone near you, just asking them to breathe with you. They don't need to talk. You just have to get your heart rate down and breathe. I also suggest what I just did. I take my hand, you put it over your heart, and you feel your heart as you're breathing. And that will also help you to regulate your breathing because you're feeling it. So often we're disconnected sometimes from our own body and how it, operates. And so that's another way to have that touch and to ground yourself during those moments. So I hope that helps. But girls, you all, for the most part, have a therapist in your Zoom room. So be sure to ask more questions in your chats about these things, because you will have someone there to support you and give you more advice and tips. But I hope that answered your question. Ooh, this is a good one here. Why do most Black parents not believe their kids have mental disorders or like issues? Any cover girl want Layla? Okay, Layla said, "I got this." You go ahead, Miss Ryans.
I literally had this conversation at my BSMU meeting yesterday. And we were talking about how I think it's just because of that, like, generations, they've always kind of silenced their problems. And if they were to speak out about their issues, they would be perceived as strange or just like crazy, and then just like automatically get sent into some institution or just like somewhere far away that just, I don't know, isn't good for their mental health. It just makes it worse. But I would say that since from their generation like silences their issues, now that we have a new generation that isn't afraid to talk about their issues and kind of speaks out about it on all different platforms, I guess that they still kind of have that thought process of like thinking that we shouldn't be talking about our issues and kind of just like asking for help.
Yes. I'm gonna see if any other cover girl wants to go for it. Okay, Sierra, you go for it.
I feel like why is because like sometimes that could never be my child. My child has a great life. Everything is perfect. Why would that happen to them? Like, so sometimes they can't believe that it would happen. And maybe they don't know, maybe they just like are brushing it off. So sometimes it's just this idea of it could never be my kid. And it does also sometimes lead back to this idea of, how they were raised. A lot of times they weren't allowed to speak out because they were perceived as weak or as just, or they were brushed off themselves. So they just kind of bring it back to you. So you, again, just kind of like find those people you can share those things with.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Layla and Sierra. Nashetah or Kendal, did you want to add to that question? I think that's such a great question. So I want to see if you have anything you want to add.
I don't know if I have anything to add because I mean, Layla and Sierra covered really great points. I was going to answer the next question though.
Go for it.
The question is, when you feel your anxiety is kicking in, what steps should you take to soothe it or calm down? For me, I have a few methods. Now I'm not like a professional. I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't know if they're like the right ways to do it. So like when I know like I'm like overthinking about something like way too much, I'll like listen to music. I'll try to calm myself down by listening to music. Sometimes I just take a nap, and like I try to like, and sometimes it's like hard to like calm my thoughts down before going to sleep because you have to have that whole process of like calming down first and then going to sleep. So like this week I was going through something with school and I was like overthinking it a lot. So I was like, I need a nap. Like I just need to sleep. And like I was still thinking about it when I was trying to go to sleep. So I was like crying. So like I was kind of crying myself to sleep a little. So honestly, like that, even though like it's not fun, like that might be a way if you're struggling that way, just like taking a nap and trying to be able to sort of calm down your thoughts first and then just sort of like taking a break from just thinking about whatever it is that you're thinking about. Also like eating, but like not like stress eating or anything like that, but more just like eating your favorite snack or like watching TV or like a show that like you really like, or watching like, I don't know, like your favorite type of YouTube videos, something that brings you peace. Like for me, I like watching cat videos on YouTube. So like if I'm like really stressed about something, I'll like just go on YouTube and find something calming or like cooking videos and I'll just watch that, and that usually makes me feel better.
So thank you so much for sharing that, Nashetah. And I want to comment on one thing you said in particular, which is the crying yourself to sleep. Listen, crying, those tears, those are feelings. Release it. Let it out. Do not feel ashamed that you might have to cry yourself to sleep. I do it. I know friends that do it. Some days it's just like, oh, girl, I just gotta cry. Yeah. Or I don't even know why. I'm texting my friend like, I don't even know why I'm crying. And she's like, let it out. It's okay. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So it's normal. It is okay. Allow your tears or that feeling of wanting to cry to be an indication that something's trying to get out. And that's the method that it's trying to get out. And maybe tomorrow or in a few hours when you wake up, you'll be able to use words and verbally be able to say what's going on. But let the tears be a signal that, okay, I just need to let this out. I might not be able to say it, but the tears are telling me I need to let this out in this way.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. So it's okay to cry, girl.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about crying really quickly. So like yesterday, no, like the day before yesterday, I had lost this really big game against our rival in volleyball, and like it was so sad. But the next day, like I came in and I was just so sad, and I was crying. I cried in like my first 4 classes, like behind the mask with the hat on. I was sobbing in class. It was so bad. But like I went to the bathroom. I just let it all out. And then after I felt better because I don't like to sob. Sometimes I just can't but I actually did for the first time in a very long time. And I was able to express with words, like you said, Miss Jaynay, right after like I had let it all out and just released it. And now, I mean, I haven't cried about it since then. I just feel better. It's like you feel better after you cry. You feel light. So it's okay to cry, guys.
Yes, I love that. It's processing it, right? And this is like a therapy term. It's just kind of like, you know what? I need to process this. I need to let it out versus what we can sometimes do is hold things down, right? Or try to push it down. We may be, behind that. I want to be perfect. I want to be strong. We may try to hide behind some of those like identity mask things. And listen, it's okay. Let it out. You're trying to process it. And usually, the quicker you go ahead and let it out, like Kendal said, it's done. It's like, oh, that was even a thing because you just let yourself process it in the moment and feel what you feel. I always say, like, feel the feel. Okay. So feel the feels. All right. So we're going to take a few more questions because the questions are so good, you guys. So we are going to get them up here. So how do you work on changing your body image if what you feel about your body is true? This is a very good question. And what I would say is it's important to consider a few things. The first thing to consider, and cover girls jump in as soon as I'm done. The first thing to consider is how you created your idea of your body, right? Or a good body. Where did you get your messaging? Was your messaging from your friends? Was your messaging from your family? Was your messaging from social media? Because there are times where our messaging also comes from our family, right? People may comment on your body and your family. And so subconsciously you feel, oh, I need to be skinny. Or subconsciously you may feel if your family has more voluptuous women and you're skinny, you're like, oh, I need to be more voluptuous. So one, you want to think about the messaging and the messages that you've got around body image. And then two, you want to ask yourself, do I agree with that? And I know that that sounds like super simple, but literally, do you agree? Like, do you agree with that messaging? And then after you have that realization and you come to that awareness, because it might take time. This isn't like you're going to be able to answer these questions in 2 or 3 seconds, but after you think about it, you're like, okay, I don't agree with that. And so then you have to ask yourself, well, how do I feel about my body? What do I actually want to feel about my body? And then that's when you kind of get to reshape and reframe what you want to believe about yourself. And then you either have to disconnect from people who have the opposite view that you no longer agree with, and then you have to connect with other groups of girls that are going to be supportive of your body, who you are, and your choices. And of course, the very cliche, say positive things about your body. Tell your body that you love it. You thank it for being here for you. You thank it for getting you through days. And focus on some of your features that you love. Right? So we all, for the most part, may have a feature or two about ourselves that we love. So give that part a little bit more love, and then you can just kind of build up on loving the rest of yourself. And also, if there is something you don't like, or, you feel like you can eat better or you can work out to, keep your body active, do those things too. There's nothing wrong with living a healthy lifestyle based on what you decide is healthy. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Kendal. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say the last part which you said it's going to be okay if you feel like you could eat better or work out. Those are really good tips. And don't work out to look like something or someone. Work out because you want to live a long life and you want to be able to do things and be mobile and go up 5 flights of stairs and not feel like you can't breathe, because that's how I feel sometimes. But it makes me feel better when I work out and I, am able to do more things and I'm more mobile. Like I said earlier, it's okay. So don't feel ashamed if you want to change your lifestyle, or if you feel like there's some things that you don't like about yourself. That's totally okay, and it's healthy to practice that because that's a part of self-care. So let's not forget that.
Yes, Jim dropping. Let's not forget. Kendal said, let's not forget that. So we better not forget that, y'all. We can't play with Kendal. All right. So our next question is, have you ever felt like burdening your friend with your problems? Like you're burdening your friends with your problems, or okay, hands up. I don't even need to read the question. So who wants to take it?
Oh, okay. I'll go first. So I know that my friends, they like to talk about any advice that they need from me or just any issues that's going on. And I think that's okay to have that. But I would just say to reach out to that therapist friend that you have. Be like, hey, are you okay? What's going on with you? Just to like reciprocate that energy, and to let them know that I'm listening for you and I'm here for you in case that you need to talk about anything, because I know it can be a lot for them to process a bunch of information that you put onto them. So but they are there for you because they're your friends, so it's always okay. But just, I would say, reach out to them too, to let them know that you're there for them.
Love that. Love that so much. You're absolutely right. I have nothing to add. Sierra, were you going to add to that though?
Yeah, I guess I want you guys to kind of remember that, like, your friends are sort of there to help you, and if they can't handle that, find a friend who can. Or, simply ask them, what can they handle today? What and think, what are you okay sharing today? That way you don't feel like you're putting too much on them, because a lot of the times your friends are there to listen. Your friends want to listen to you, and especially your therapist, they kind of get paid to do that. They kind of do, just a little bit. So they are there to help you. They're there to help you move through what you're thinking about, and to process how you are feeling. So just sort of that idea that, like, they're there to help you. And if maybe you want to meet them halfway, then that's totally an option too.
Y'all just make my heart sing. I love y'all so much. Oh, Nashetah, did you want to add something?
Yeah,
Okay.
because what Sierra was mentioning, like when she was talking about like asking your friend, like, what can you handle today? Like, I immediately thought of boundaries. Like, it's always good to set boundaries. And I am that friend. Like, I'm that therapist friend. So like my friends come to me and they talk to me about stuff, and like I like helping my friends. And like friends are meant to help their other friends, like Layla and Sierra said. So it's always like if you are struggling with something, find a friend who you can go to and get advice from. Or if your friend can't do that, then seek out help somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. And you all give good tips. And I think I want to just say it's okay if your friend doesn't have the capacity that day because they have something else going on. That doesn't mean they're not a good friend and that, you should stop being friends with them. Again, it's all about patterns. If that's a pattern that they're never there for you, if it's a pattern that they never want to talk to you, then that's something to consider, because friendship should go both ways. That doesn't mean equal. It just means it goes both ways. So just be okay with that, right? If your friend isn't able to communicate or chat with you at the time, because you would want them to be fully invested and there for you if you shared something, right? Anyway. And so if they weren't, then you would feel like you were being slighted too. So just being open-minded and being flexible in your friendships and in your sisterhoods is just really important. And yes, boundaries. So being honest, right? Because maybe a friend will text you like, hey, I have this. Do you have a minute? If you really don't, just be honest. Say, no, I don't have time right now, but can I give you a call back at 5:30? Or can I talk to you once I'm done with this? So it's also okay to be honest in those exchanges. All right, so final question. What do you do when your parents don't accept you for who you really are? I think this is a super layered question. And I think my very first answer is finding people and finding your tribe that do accept you for who you are in the meantime. Because the reality is your parents may never accept you for who you are, or it may take them more time. But in the meantime, you should still feel good about you, and you should still be around people who celebrate you, who love you, who care about you. And so in the meantime, right, you find a good tribe, you find community. UYS is absolutely a community. These girls, like I said, have been together for a year. I've been a part of their community. Other people in UYS have been a part of them and their community. So you find community that can uplift you while you're going through the journey. Because sometimes our parents, just to Sierra's point earlier, may have had a different idea of how raising you was going to look, or may have had a different idea of who you were going to be. And they may need time as well to navigate that there are some differences that they have no control over. And so in the meantime, you find your tribe, you find your people that can uplift you and love you and support you until your parents catch up. And I'm saying until they catch up because I'm going to be hopeful that they catch up. But there's also a reality that some parents may not catch up. But you still deserve love, and you still deserve to be accepted by your chosen family and community. All right. So this was amazing. Like, I love this conversation. Cover Girls, I hope you did too. And as we wrap up, I just want to say my wish for you during the summit is to be bold, be brave, and be uniquely you. Allow sisterhood to be your anchor, because this is all for the love of Black girls. So, I enjoyed this. Cover Girls, how are you feeling? Yes, this is awesome. So we are going to log off and we are going to say our goodbyes. You lovely ladies are going to head over to your GXL rooms, and I'm just so grateful for this experience. So enjoy the rest of your summit experience and be uniquely you.
Hi. I just
Hello there. Hi, Alyssa. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. First, I just want to say thank you to the Cover Girls and Miss Jaynay, our resident therapist. I thought they did an amazing job. Cover Girls, I want to thank you for your courageous compassion. The things that you had to say were beautiful and meaningful, and I know that they reached someone. There's a quote that says, when you stand and share your story in an empowering way, your story will heal you, and your story will also heal someone else. So I'm so proud of all of them. Alyssa, before we allow you to jump back into your official hosting capacity, I wanted to just tell you how proud I am of you. I know that you're 12 now and the voice of the girl bear in all of the new Charmin toilet paper commercials, a cast member on Ludacris's new Netflix animated series, Karma's World, and a series regular on Nickelodeon, Santiago of the Seas, and HBO's The Flight Attendant. I have no idea how you do it all at just 12. And I also heard that back in 2016, as a result of being with us at the summit when you were just 7, you discovered that you had a passion for singing, and now you have 3 singles currently streaming on all of the platforms, is what I have heard. Is that all true?
Yes, it's all true. I have 3 singles. My first one was when I was 7. It was called The Weekend. And then I had another single. I was also 7. And it's called Like It Here. And then I have a recent one that I made about a year ago called Do It Big. And I just got the music video for it.
Nice. You have to share it with us. Maybe we can share it tomorrow. Yeah. Well,
it's not out yet.
It's not out yet. Okay, as soon as it's out, you make sure you tell us, and we're going to put it on our social so everybody can take a look at it. All right. So,
Okay.
UYS girls, if you could in the chat just give Alyssa some love, love, love. Also, give our cover girls and Miss Jaynay some love. Miss Jaynay said it so well when she concluded. She said that sisterhood, let sisterhood be the anchor this weekend. So show your sister Alyssa some love, the cover girl some love. She's going to give you guys some directives, and we'll resume the rest of the day. So thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I just wanted to say that the whole discussion was so powerful. And our wellness is part of our superpower as Black girls. It is part of our magic. It's revolutionary. And Audre Lorde truly said it best that caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that's an act of political warfare. So I thank you, cover girls, for your transparency and willingness to be so vulnerable about a topic that almost never centers the Black girl experience. So now I'm sure all of you watching have a lot to say. And so we have designed your smaller session to be a place where you can share your own stories, feelings, and experiences. This is your Black girl safe space. And so that is where you're headed right now. It is the individual Zoom link that you all received. Click that link and make your virtual way to all those rooms. And I'll see you all this afternoon. Bye.